Lavonne, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you all about induction. So this is one of the things that has come up in the comments. It's come up on my Instagram. So we are here and we're going to talk all about it. What are the risks? What are the benefits? How to make the most of it? What is an induction? And then in part 2, I'm going to be talking to you all about how we induce you to get your baby out. Okay, let's get started. XYZ happens, oh my god, you can see the ring light in there. I have a ring light and it works real well, thanks. Amateur YouTuber 101. I find that almost every single one of my mamas at some point in her pregnancy is talked to about an induction. Not saying that they need one, but if XYZ happens, you may need to be induced. So I find that this is a very common concern. It's a common fear amongst moms. In general, I think a lot of mamas don't want to be induced, and there are reasons for that. I totally get it. So let's really talk about it and help to alleviate some of your fears. An induction is when you are not in labor, you are not having contractions that are changing your cervix, and you, for whatever reason, go to the hospital, and then we, and I'm speaking as a nurse here, we give you medications and or help you to have your baby vaginally. Vaginally being the key. So there's multiple reasons that people would be induced. There's kind of two categories. So you think about it as like, there's the elective side where you are choosing to be induced. So I know in California, there are laws that actually prevent you from being electively induced, meaning you choosing to without a medical reason before 39 weeks. So you really can't be induced electively before 39 weeks. Other places in the US and Canada and the world probably have different rules about that, but in general, you're not gonna want to electively induce before term, and ideally we're talking 39 weeks. Even 40 weeks is better. An elective induction is the mama that is over being pregnant, that she's like, I'm tired, I'm uncomfortable, I can't take it anymore, my doctor's going out of town, or I want my baby to be a Pisces. Shout out to all the Pisces. So the elective reasons are not going to be medically indicated. They're like for the comfort of yourself. In general, an elective induction is not recommended because anytime you interfere with the process, there are risks involved, which I'm going to get into. And if you can avoid those risks, ideally you want to avoid as much risk as possible. The best case scenario is that your body goes into labor on its own. If you trust in your body, if you wait for labor, you give it time. The average first-time mom goes into labor on her own when you wait at 41 weeks and 3 days. I say this all the time to my mamas when we're waiting for labor and you're anticipating it, expect to go a week past your due date. That is not uncommon and in general is very safe so long as you're under the care of your provider and your provider is saying, yes, everything is still good with your pregnancy. Now, in certain circumstances, your doctor or midwife is going to say, look, we are here, meaning you have gestational diabetes, you have preeclampsia, baby looks like he or she isn't getting all that it needs from the placenta, you are at 42 weeks, the baby's not growing anymore, which probably has to do with the placenta, like I said. Those would be medically indicated reasons for an induction. When your doctor or midwife recommends a medical induction, they are saying now it is actually safer for your baby to be on the outside than it is for your baby to stay on the inside. But we have time, that it's not an emergency that we have to get the baby out like that via cesarean birth, but instead I want you under the care of a medical team being monitored with the heart rate monitors to see how your baby's doing and taking our time to work our way towards delivery. So prior to your doctor scheduling an induction, or if that conversation were to start coming up in the office, I would ask one thing: is there a medical indication for this induction, or is it just because you're going on vacation? And if there is a medical indication for induction, the next question that I encourage you to ask your doctor is, what's my chances of a vaginal birth? The majority of women who are induced in the US, I'm speaking to United States statistics here, actually do go on to have a vaginal birth. There is a way to potentially somewhat predict or get an idea what your chances are of a vaginal birth, and that is called the Bishop score. So basically a Bishop score is a vaginal exam. So your doctor prior to the induction in the office is going to perform a vaginal exam, feel the cervix, and then based on what they feel, they're going to rate multiple different things on a score thing called the Bishop score, and then based on that they give you a number, and then that tells you whether or not you have a high chance of a vaginal delivery or whether your chance is on the lower end. If the score is 8 or above, we like to call those cervixes favorable for induction, meaning likely you're gonna go into labor in the next couple of days anyway. You give a little slap on the booty and get that thing moving, and then likely you're gonna move towards a vaginal birth very, very quickly. A Bishop score of 6 to 7 is kind of neutral, like we're kind of like right smack dab in the middle, and then anything less than 6 is going to be a higher chance of a cesarean birth. So if you're in the elective category and you're thinking like, yo, I really gotta get this baby out, you ask for your Bishop score and they say, you know, your Bishop score is a 3, you have to understand that by going forward and choosing an elective induction, your risk of a C-section or it not working is gonna be higher than if it were on the higher side. The other thing to keep in mind with the Bishop score, to me, the Bishop score gives you an idea of also kind of how long it's gonna take for the induction. So one of the downsides, which I wouldn't say is a risk, but like it's a bummer kind of scenario when you think about having an induction, is the fact that you don't get to do labor at home. You're doing the entire thing in the hospital. And by the way, they do not induce at home. So if you were planning for a home birth and you needed to be induced, you would have to go to the hospital for it. So you're in the hospital the entire time, which the whole idea of labor and getting things going and allowing your labor hormones to do what they need to do is being in the safety of your own environment, not a foreign place with people coming and going and monitors on and an IV, which you do have to have for an induction. Those kind of things you can avoid when you're at home. You can eat, you can drink, you can walk around, you can be naked, you can do whatever you want. Whereas once you're in the hospital, it feels a little like you're potentially more on guard. So that's kind of one of the downsides of it. So when you look at that Bishop score and you're saying, okay, like what are my chances of a vaginal birth here? And you know that you have a lower score, say you need to be medically induced for that reason, anticipate being in the hospital for a while. Your doctor can probably give you a range. No one's ever right, flex and flow. So this is where you just kind of gotta wait and see how long it's gonna take. Some bodies respond really well and some bodies take a while. They're a little more rebellious. You can ask your doctor, how long do you think this is gonna take? I tell people on average, expect your induction to take minimum 24 hours for a first-time mom. If you're a second, third, fourth-time mom, less time than that, okay? But that's where that Bishop score, the lower end numbers, less than 6, is gonna be a good indicator. Expect it to be at least a day. Now, I've seen 3, 4, 5-day inductions. Now, the 5-day inductions, super rare, but a 3-day induction does happen. Now, those mamas don't come in at 3 centimeters. Those mamas come in at closed, thick, and high, what we call with your cervix. So your cervix has really done nothing yet, and we're starting from square one. Those are your 3-day inductions. On average, expect about 24 hours, and that's 24 hours until delivery. On the higher end, you may be less than 24 hours. I've seen inductions take 8 hours, where they just needed, like I said before, that little boost, and then they're good to go. Now, most of the time that you're spending in the hospital is that early labor piece. That early labor can take however long it takes. Remember that from my when to go to the hospital video? So with that being said, once you hit that 6 centimeter mark, your body typically kind of takes off in labor. Like it knows what it's doing now. It's like, oh, okay, I'm cool. Mind you, there's always a risk that it just is like, I'm done, not ready. Just, you didn't wait long enough. So what are the risks of induction? The first risk is that it may not work. There really are only 4 things that we can do to help you have your baby, and your body may respond to them. Again, that higher Bishop score number, meaning your cervix being soft and dilated, that may set you up for the medications to be able to actually help you, but sometimes you do all the things and your hands are tied because you're like, well, there's nothing else that we can do to try to help you have your baby. And depending on where you're at for that, if the induction doesn't work, then you may be looking at a C-section. So is there a higher correlation with an induction and C-section? The answer is yes. Now, is that the case with everybody? No, and that's where that Bishop score and having that conversation with your doctor is really gonna be helpful. The second risk is really any of the side effects or risks of any of the things that we do to induce you. So with breaking your water, for instance, then you have a higher risk of infection. There are ways to do that that help you to prevent that infection and to set you up to avoid the infection. But when we're messing with the process, it is gonna hold more risk because you're not just letting it happen on its own. The other important one to note is risk for bleeding. So one of the biggest things that we're worried about after you have your baby is for too much bleeding. And so everybody's watching that afterwards. But when you've been in labor for a really long time and we're waiting for your cervix to change, and maybe it's taking a really long time, you've been on Pitocin for a while, causing contractions, that your uterus can just be tired. Okay, we call it uterine atony after birth. And so the uterus needs to clamp down to prevent you from bleeding. And so it's just kind of like, meh, I don't feel like it. I'm tired, I'm gonna bleed more. So the highest risk for what we call postpartum hemorrhage is you being on Pitocin for a very long time, which Pitocin just causes contractions. The other big question that comes up with induction is there more need for an epidural? Meaning women will say that like, oh, with an induction, my contractions were just totally intolerable and I needed the epidural versus not. I would say that labor is hard no matter what. And I think when you're induced, first of all, you're in the hospital, so you're focusing more on the contractions. You have more monitors connected to you, so you have less ability to move around, less ability to distract yourself. You're not gonna go walking around the block when you're being induced. And so it makes you focus on the pain a little bit more when you're in the hospital. I have had plenty of mamas that have been induced and have done it without an epidural, and other ones that aren't induced that were planning to not get an epidural and then needed one because labor is hard. Anecdotally, I would say from my own personal experience, is it impossible to go without an epidural and be induced? Absolutely not. I think you can do it. At the same time, I think that there are some outside factors and some of the sensations from the induction agents that may make labor a little bit harder to deal with. I usually tell my mamas when they're induced and they're planning to go without, and especially if they're choosing to electively induce, I always just give them the general disclaimer, let's talk about the epidural again, because it is a different experience. And so to be prepared to not suffer and be open to whatever happens in your labor. Let me just say this is a complicated topic. I'm really giving a basic overview to all of this. If you want to know more about induction and kind of like how it builds on each other, I do talk about this in my childbirth class and in my birth coaching program. What I would encourage you, if you have to be induced, is one, talk through, understand exactly what the process is going to be. And you can watch my next video because that's going to talk you through like the different steps of what they can use to potentially induce you. So understand what the process is going to be. Ask your doctor what your Bishop score is, / what are your chances of a C-section, how long you think that it might take, and then think about all the things that you can still control. I know there's this element of loss of like, oh, I really wanted to labor at home, or I really wanted to be free to like move around or not have an IV or it not be medical. And so I get that. Like that is definitely something that you're gonna need to take a moment, talk with your partner, talk with your family, friends, and process that through. At the same time, think about all those things that you wanted in your birth, and then think about what are the elements from what you wanted that you can still maintain for your induction. It's transferring home to hospital. So I really wanted to be able to move around. So when you get to the hospital, you say, look, it's really important for me to be able to move around. Would you help me to potentially walk, to be able to sit on a ball, do all of those things, which are possible in the hospital setting. Flex and flow based on your provider, based on your hospital, based on your medical scenario. Just because you're induced doesn't mean that you have to just like throw your hands in the air and let go of anything and everything that you wanted for your labor and birth. Think about what you can control and then focus on that rather than what you feel like you've lost. You can still have a beautiful, healthy, positive birth memory when you're induced. To me, it so much has to do with having the right education, feeling in control, understanding the process, and then be able to flex and flow based on what your body and your baby needs. Now, the benefits of an induction are that you get your baby. And hopefully that then you're given the option of a vaginal birth. So these are ways to help you have a vaginal birth and avoid a cesarean birth. Thanks everyone for being with me here today. I hope that answered a bunch of your questions related to induction. If you have any more, please feel free to throw them in the comment box below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and then stay tuned for part number 2 where I talk you through what the 4 things are that we can do to help you. If you have to be induced, let it go, okay? Flex and flow. This is where your body and your baby and your placenta are all telling you what they need. Your doctor is on your side. There are ways to optimize it. Keep the labor mood, still do a lot of the support stuff that you've learned about, still trust in your body and let those hormones flow, and assist with the induction agents as you pursue having a healthy baby and being healthy yourself. If you are looking for any kind of labor support, childbirth education, you want more from me, you're like, that got me started, but I have so many other questions about other things, it's gonna take me years to be able to cover all that I can cover on this channel. So I am working on it, but in the meantime, you can go to bundlebirth.com and I have childbirth classes there. I have coaching services for anyone, anywhere, and if you're in Los Angeles, I'm here. So hit me up and we can talk about what your options are to help you feel super confident and ready for the big birth day. But until next time, don't forget to flex and flow, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys. Probably the most requested thing as of late, and whatever else I got. Video as I keep shooting them out to you. Nah. All about induction of labor. So your doctor says that, my goodness, bitchy. Today I'm gonna be talking to you, never miss a video that I put out there. Thanks everyone for being with me here today.